Hi, today I am Jalen and we will be talking about the plantation economy. The south soil and almost year-round growing season was ideal for plantation crops like rice and tobacco. These valuable plants required much labor to produce, but with enough workers they could be grown as cash crops. Planters had no trouble transporting their crops because the region's many waterways made it easy for ocean-going ships to tie up at the plantation docks. Like George Mason's boyhood home, most plantations were largely self-sufficient. This is nearly everything that planters, their families, and their workers needed as was produced on the plantation. Because plantations were so self-sufficient, large cities like those in the north were rare. Today we will be talking about the southern colonies, and this took place in 1750. And we're going to start off in Virginia, and um, they had lots of tobacco plantations like this, and the tobacco seems to be more on this side. You don't really see it on this side. And then they had corn. They grew corn, and they had pigs to like butcher, and then they'd sell it, or they'd make piglets and then sell those alive to other people, and that's how they made a business. And in North Carolina, they had naval stores right here. Um, they still had tobacco. They had corn. They had rice, and they had pigs, which they did the same thing in Virginia. But I still notice that the tobacco has still been on this side of the and in all these states, but there's none on this side, which is interesting. Um, in South Carolina, they had indigo, which is a root that they planted, and it contains a blue dye that they'd make like blue wool. They'd make a lot of things out of it. And they still had pigs, which pigs were a big part of all this. They still had corn and rice, which pretty much all these states over here necessarily had the same things. This maybe not identical. In Georgia, they had indigo, pigs, and rice. Which this is what in this time this is what made their life. They'd every day they'd farm, and with this caused you get a farm, and then you want a bigger farm, and then you won't have enough people, so you get slaves. The turn of slavery. For the first half of the 60s, these were very few Africans in Virginia, whether enslaved or free. In 1665, fewer than 500 Africans had been brought into the colony. At this time, African and European indentured servants worked in the fields together. Starting in the 1660s, the labor system began to change as indentured white servants started to leave their plantations. One reason they left was the large amount of land in America. It was fairly easy for white men to save enough money to buy land and start their own families. White servants could not be kept on the plantations permanently. As Bacon Rebellion showed, it was almost politically dangerous for planters to try to keep them there. As a result, the landowners had to find another source of labor. So, these white people would save money and then go to a different part and buy land so they could start their farm. And then, just like in here, they'd grow all of this, and it's like a little circle. Like start with a sprout and this go around and until they make a lot of money. So this chart shows the U.S. slave population. So in the 1650s, they were about the same north and south, and then the percent went a little bit higher in the south and the north, and then the south went super high because of all these farms. So they needed slaves. And the North kind of stayed the same. I mean, like there was a little ups and downs, but the South went to 5% of the U.S. slave population to almost 40%. So that was a drastic change from 100 years. And in in 1750, you could see that 40% of the slaves were in the South because of this chart right here, because of all these plantations in and around these states. Thanks for listening, and have a good day.
Today I'm going to talk about slave trade. The slave trade grew slowly at first. In 1509, with the Spanish governor Diego Columbus' son, wrote to the king's demanded to complain